So you're probably the first person that I heard who actually self-diagnosed, colitis. Especially, it's a complex disease. At least when I was diagnosed, that was the first time that I've ever heard of it. And I'm sure it was the same for you, but you picked up your knowledge from the internet, right?
Well, yeah, I had never heard of it. I just like typed in my symptoms in Google and that came up. I had never heard of ulcerative colitis. I had heard of Crohn's, but I had never heard of ulcerative colitis prior to my WebMD search. And then when I actually got diagnosed with it was the first time that I really was like, oh, okay. And then, started hearing about other people having it and learning more about it. But it was completely foreign to me initially. And I didn't even go to the doctor then. Like I said, when I took that prednisone, I mean, I felt like I was on top of the world again. It was just the kick I needed to mask the symptoms at the time. And so I had gone to my hometown for this little festival, this like Halloween festival they have every year. And I was 25 and I just turned 25 and hanging out with my friends and having fun on Friday night and felt totally fine. And then the next morning I woke up and I didn't think that I had had that much to drink, but I definitely was, cutting up and letting loose a little bit. So I thought, oh, maybe I did overdo it a little bit and thought I was hungover. And as the day went on, I felt worse and worse and worse and tried to eat, and that made me feel even more sick. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I must have the flu. I was teaching second grade at the time, and it was end of October. So, we're starting to get into cold and flu season, and a lot of my kids were sick. And so I thought, oh, I must have what's going around with my students. So by about Wednesday, I was like, I don't actually think this is the flu. Every day I'm feeling worse instead of better. I better call the doctor. And so I did, and they did some blood work. And of course, my white blood cell count was like outrageous. And my doctor said, I want you to go in and see this GI. And so I had to wait almost another week. I finally get into the GI, and he's an older gentleman, and he asked me what my symptoms are, and I kind of fibbed about them because I was raised very like, girls don't talk about those things, you don't share. And he said, your symptoms don't seem real severe, but you look like you don't feel that well. I think he kind of like knew I was embarrassed, to be totally honest, about what was really happening. And he said, you have to have a colonoscopy. And I started laughing. I was 25 years old. I started laughing. I said, no, cancer patients and old men have colonoscopies, not me. I'm young, I'm healthy. Like, no. And he said, well, cancer patients, old men, and you have colonoscopies now. I said, okay. So I called my parents and told them what was going on, because of course they're worried sick. They live like 5 hours away from me at the time. My mother's really worried, like, what's going on with you? So they came up because I needed a driver for my colonoscopy, my first of many colonoscopies. And I had a huge phobia of needles at the time, like a full-on panic attack getting my first IV. Which is important too, a little later. And, my dad's upset watching this all go down. He starts to get choked up. He has to leave. My mom puts on the mother warrior face, like, you just have to do this. You have to get through this. We have to find out what's going on. So I have my colonoscopy, and my GI comes out, and he tells me, I don't know how you've been living like this. You are the worst I have ever seen undiagnosed in my entire career. It is the damage from the ulcerative colitis is all the way through your entire colon already. And he slid a Valium script across the table to me. And he said, get this filled. You're going to need it because you have a lot more needles coming your way. Because he witnessed my IV meltdown. Now I can take a shot, get an IV with no problems. I've come a long way, but That was like my biggest medical fear at the time, which is just so hysterical to me now because I've had I've been through so much and I've had so much trauma since that it's just like, I look at myself like, oh, that poor girl, she had no idea. No idea what was coming in the next year. But yeah, that's how it started. And it just got a little crazier from there.